Today we're here with October Mountain Products and we're going to review the basics of an international limb fitting or an ILF bow. A lot of the principles we're going to talk about are universal, but for today's example we're going to use the Night Ridge bow. We have the limb and tiller bolt here, which controls the tiller adjustment on the limb, which we'll dig into deeper later on in the video. Here we have the lateral limb plate adjustment, which controls the left and right adjustments of a limb. And that plate is controlled by these bolts on the side of the riser that push the plate left and right depending on the tension on each bolt. So to install your limbs, we're going to take one of the limbs to get started, and this is the bottom limb, and we're going to install this detent bolt into the top of the lateral limb adjustment plate. And you should hear an audible click when you know it's in place correctly. So we're going to get it aligned here, then we'll push it down. Then to do the other limb, same thing. We're going to make sure that the detent bolt is aligned in the lateral limb plate and hear that audible click. So now that we have our limbs on the bow, we're going to install the string. Each string will have a small loop and a slightly larger loop. The larger loop will go on the top limb, while the bottom limb will take the smaller loop. So you'll take the larger loop and put that over the top of the limb, then come down to the bottom and put the smaller loop directly onto the limb tip. Now you would grab your stringer and install that below the top string so that when you slide the string up, you do not run into your stringer. You take your bottom stringer here and you will put this again over the limb tip and slide it on. Before using the stringer, double check to make sure that your bottom string is securely in the limb groove correctly. Then you will step on your string here and you'll pull up and slide the string over the limb tip. Once you have the string in place, make sure to double check that the string is installed correctly and the string is inside the limb groove. After our string is installed on the bow, we next need to check and confirm our brace height. So for this Night Ridge, the brace height that we recommend is 7 1/4 to 8 1/4, but we're going to set this at 7 1/2. You can fine tune that based on your own setup. So we're going to use our bow square here, and we're going to measure from the deepest part of the grip to the string, and right now we are a little bit short. So we're going to unstring the bow, add some twist into it to make the string shorter, which will increase our brace height. So we will take the bottom portion of our string and rotate the string tighter. So now we're at just about right on at 7 1/2. So once you have your brace height set, now it's time to check your tiller alignments. So to check your tiller, you're going to put your bow square against where the limb separates from the riser at the very top and measure it at a parallel angle back to your string. So at the top we're at about just under 6 1/2, and at the bottom we are about 6 5/16. So we are out of alignment, and the goal is to get the tiller measurements from your top limb and your bottom limb to be identical. When making large adjustments, it is highly recommended that you unstring the bow and adjust the tiller bolts and limb bolts without the bow being strung due to the pressure put on the threads and the limbs themselves. For fine, minute adjustments to get the final detail correct, it would be okay to adjust while the bow is strung, but be extremely careful during this process. So just like the brace height, it's a process of checking, making some adjustments, and rechecking. So now we're at about 6 5/16, both on the top and lower tiller measurements. The next step in setting up your ILF bow is confirming that the string runs perfectly center through your limbs and through the riser. To do this, we use clamps, or you can also use masking tape that has a line perfectly center drawn through. And what you're attempting to do is align the string with the center of the limb. We'll put one on the top and one on the bottom. So once you have your bow set up, you want to stand directly behind the string and follow the line of the string down the limbs and the riser. You want to have the string fall right in the middle of the line on your masking tape, or in this case, of your clamps. Next, we want to check the bottom limb. There's the same process. Install one at the top and one at the bottom. So the bottom limb is slightly out of adjustment, and the string needs to move to the left in order to make it center with the top clamp and the bottom clamp. So to do that, we are going to adjust this plate adjustment screw here and make it tighter, which should bring the string into alignment. Anytime that we are going to make adjustments to the lateral limb plate bolts, we want to make sure the bow is unstrung. So now, we need to bring the limb into alignment, and this is the bolt on the left side that we needed to tighten in order to do so. We're going to remove the limb, and we're going to stick our wrench in here on the left side of the bow, loosen it, and also loosen the one on the right side and back that out just a little bit. By backing out both sides, you can see the lateral limb plate now adjust, and we want to bring it, before it was too far, when we had the bow this way, it was too far on the left, so we need to bring it to the right. So we actually need to bring the plate this way. So pressure on both sides from each bolt will put this plate in the correct location. When you believe you've made the appropriate amount of adjustment, you would reinsert the limb, string the bow, and repeat the same process. Now we can see that the string is aligned through the center of the bottom limb tip, through the clamps, up through the riser, and through the top limb tip. We are now properly aligned. Now that we are done with all of our adjustments, we're going to make sure that we replace the cover screws that go in the bottom of the riser on the lateral limb bolts. These screws do not actually make any adjustment, they simply cover the lateral limb adjustment screws. At this point, we have checked our brace height, our tiller, and our center of our limb alignment. And we're now ready to install our rest and proceed in the process. So the first step in this process is leveling your bow. So we have the freehand levels here. This is the bow level, which will get clamped onto the string, and then you make adjustments on the versicradle until your bow is level. At this point, our bow is level, and we are ready to install the rest. There's many different kinds of rest with recurve bows. Most common are rug rest, and you will put one of the felt rests on the shelf of the riser and the other on the side of the riser itself. How much the rest needs built out will depend on your bow type, and you want to build it out enough so that when you're standing behind the bow, that the arrow tip is just slightly to the left of the string. So when placing the bottom, I'm going to find the top of the shelf and stick it on. Now the second part of the rest will get aligned on the side of the riser. Most commonly, you will end up covering the burger button if one is on the riser that you're using. If not, you would just line it again perpendicular to the current rest that's on the shelf. This will now allow the arrow to contact only the two pieces of the felt rest and have no contact with the riser itself. So once we confirm that our bow is level, it's time to install the knocking point. We will attach our arrow to the string. In most cases, when shooting with fingers, we want to be about an 1/8 inch high off of level. Now, we would install our brass knocking point and able to have a consistent knocking point. Before locking it into place, we'll confirm that you're just slightly high. And then we will use our knocking pliers to crimp the knocking point on. If there is any burrs in the process, you could use a metal file to file off any burrs, if any exist. So once we have our knocking point on, should double check to make sure we still have a slightly above level knocking point. Now we're ready to go shoot. For more videos like this one, check us out at octobermountainproducts.com.